So tonight I want to talk a little bit about the Saraniya Sutta, which is Saraniya, according to this translation from Tanisuru Bhikkhu, is translates as conducive to amiability. And today, as I was looking up that word, not Saraniya, but amiable, like I said earlier, derives from this Latin word amicabilis. I don't know how my pronunciation goes there. Meaning friendly, or a friend as well, and can ultimately be traced back to the word to love. We have a common theme there for the whole Dharma teachings. I really love that bit where it's also related to the word amateur, meaning an admirer. So if we look at it like amateur sport, an admirer of sport, we're not playing for money or anything like that. It's just for the love of it. Amateur meditation, Buddhist meditation, just for the love of it. So the Saraniya Dharma is this comes from the Book of the Sixes in the Anguttara Nikaya. Who did the retreat with me in September last year. You've probably heard this talk before from me. There's 6 things that were laid out that led to, that were conducive to amiability, that engendered feelings of endearment, feelings of respect, and leading to a genuine sense of fellowship, which led to then a lack of disputes, harmony, and a state of unity. Straight from the sutta this is, and I'll just read the first one in full and then just little parts of the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So there is the case where a monk is set on bodily acts of goodwill. So just translate gender as needed here, but this is just direct translation. So the monk is set on bodily acts of goodwill with regard to his fellows in the holy life. And that means they're set on them to their faces and behind their backs. So when they're there and when they're not there. This is a condition that is conducive to amiability, that engenders feelings of endearment, engenders feelings of respect, leading to a sense of fellowship, a lack of disputes, harmony, and a state of unity. So the second one is where the someone on the holy path, on the holy life, is set on verbal acts of goodwill in regard to their fellow travelers. The third one, they're set on mental acts of goodwill. The fourth, that whatever they gain in an honest and righteous way, they share with others. They'll never consume it alone. They'll always share in common with others. And the next one is that they're in reference to the virtues. In other words, the sila, the framework of conduct, not lying, not stealing, no sexual harm. They commit to these in a way that that they're then praised by the wise, that they commit to these in a way that they lead to concentration, because the mind is free of any sense of wrongdoing. The mind is free of any sense of harm of others. Very sweet. And having this commitment to these virtues, then something lets go, allowing for an ease of mind, an ease of being with our experience, being with nature. The last one is that their views, they act in accordance with the views of nature, with Dharma. And this also then leads to this sense of ease in ourselves. We're not going against the laws of nature, not fighting against them. And all these there in this sutta, the short sutta, are aimed at the building of community, the sweet building of community. So it's not just an idea, it's not a random thing. You could say it's a science. These are the things that lead to a state of harmony in our friendships, our relationships. Of course, the great challenge is to put these into action, right? When things get a little bit heated, or someone's not doing what we want, or we're not doing what someone else wants. In the meditation, I was just reminded of that. Something Buddha said in one sutta somewhere that I don't contend with the world contends with me. Now that's equanimity. That's equanimity. So it's important that with this sort of teaching that we don't, take it as this self-improvement project that once completed, will be perfect. It's probably not going to happen like that. But really more something about practices that allow life to flow naturally and easily. Because it all comes down to this thing of loving kindness, maintaining actions filled with loving kindness, physically, thoughts filled with loving kindness, speech with loving kindness. Yeah. It's not then a way that we're trying to pretend that discomfort is not there. Yeah. Because we can't pretend that we like having a headache, right? We can't pretend we like having a broken arm, or that someone dies, a good friend dies. We can't pretend that. We're not trying to pretend that the bitter is sweet, as someone said. Yeah. It's more about cultivating this attitude that everything belongs. Even if it's harmful, it's all part of the bigger part of things and how they are. And sometimes when you're fed a continuous 24-hour cycle of negative news, you start to wonder about that, huh? But it's an attitude. It's about the cultivating of wisdom, the development of serenity. So as we go along, I just encourage you, if you have any questions, please jot them down mentally or physically. I'd love to hear them at the end. So with this attitude, what we're aiming to do is unite the physical, the energetic, the mental, with speech, with actions. There's a conscious effort taken that combines loving kindness through all these parts of our being, not to use speech to create division. She shouldn't have said that, How could she? But it's all about this thing of, that's what I was saying, James Barrows taught me this lovely line. It's about enlightened self-interest. Enlightened self-interest. Knowing that I love to receive kind words, thoughts, actions. I'm guessing everyone else does too, at some level. And I get as much from it as anyone else. I'm just trying to filter through this much longer talk here as we go through. We're talking before we started here about how many psychologists around town here in Melbourne are finding their practices well and truly full. It just so happened today I was looking up for a friend, and one practice had a 4-month waiting list. 4 months. Boyd here, 5 weeks. He's one of the, he must heal people quickly, so he sort of moves them on. In this kind of environment, this sort of COVID environment that's creating a lot of anxiety, even if things are opening up, for a lot of people they're still stressing deeply. A lot of overflow from that. We're talking about how for some people it's stressful to have an overfull practice. Because the heart is so into the work, that's stressful to be able to not be able to see everyone. This is the great challenge of Dharma in action when you're in this field, to meet this call of suffering. And made me kind of think about what must it be like in some of those war zones. People with Doctors Without Borders, for instance. It's that level of giving, selfless giving, of opening and giving. One would have to be very present or go downhill very quickly, I imagine. So this intention about how we go about things is the difference between like burnout and the middle way. So even we've got this huge karmic bank of goodwill, if we have a sort of intention behind that of like a huge investment in the person, if we're trying to fix them, for instance, we do this, then they'll get better. We can find ourselves being caught up in times like this. I bought a book the other day, Viktor Frankl's book of essays, not that famous book of his, I can't remember what it's called now, but their book of essays, sort of like Yes to Life in Spite of Everything. Viktor Frankl, if you don't know him, I imagine most of you do, he He went through the concentration camps and survived somehow, when almost everyone around him died. Yes to life in spite of everything. These are the essays he wrote straight after. It's almost like we've got a smaller version of that now. With COVID, we have, 6 people in the space here today. We've had some humble nights, but this is the smallest one, I think, guys, isn't it? 3 of those are facilitators. Oh, 4 really. Count Paul, I reckon you're nearly 1 too, aren't you? So yes to life, in spite of everything. What a great title. Pro-life, pro-effort, pro-caring. That's what this intention is about. That builds community. That builds friendliness. That builds the quality of heart. Yes to life. Looking out for others. I've got enough here. Have you got enough? A beautiful sentiment. I've got enough. Have you got enough? And then lastly, this relationship to the precepts, to the code of conduct that we share if you want to follow this path, because it's all optional. You really want to look into it and really want to look into the benefits of this. This is the place to start, not meditation, but really the precepts. Because the more that we sincerely follow these, the more we find this sense of community. The more we find this natural sense of respect, this natural sense of caring. And we move from the sense of, well, they're not doing it, why should I? We all know that one, right? I'm sure we do. A bit like Michelle Obama's line, they go low, we go high. It takes a lot of restraint sometimes to do this. So there's this sort of paradox with the precepts, that with the precepts we're holding on to things, developing. But then with the other practices, we're letting go of the suffering. So we've got this challenge. One's holding, one's letting go, holding, letting go. And then once we get a hang of that, though, that's when we understand the path. So it can sound very, teachings can sound very conflictual almost at times. But this is the development of wisdom then. Letting go of suffering, building right effort, building the goodness, building the kindness. So regardless of what other people are doing, there's a sense of I'm holding to what I know is true. And this way of saying to our friends, we've got your back. We'll support you. Well, it's 8:30. I was wondering, does anyone have any observations, questions, salient points? There's something there, Josh, thinking about? No? Dharma land. This is the 6 Saraniya Dharmas. In brief. The whole retreat there. Anything else on that? Nice to fit with everyone again, of the same. So lovely to be here. Beautiful facilitators. Josh, Liz, Boyd, thank you. Paul, our regular. So we just wind that up then. Did you want to say something more? Yeah, what is it then? Oh yeah. No,
Hi again, everybody. It feels very strange to be at BSV and be looking into a screen. But as Anton said, it's been